Yeah, big opportunity for us, particularly when you play a side who's exactly where you are on the ladder too. I mean, there's a few of us on the outside looking in, and we need a few results to go our way for the rest of the season as well. But all we can do is win games of footy, and that's our objective.
Any sympathy towards, I suppose, from the outside looking in at Essendon's struggles at the minute?
Oh, certainly you have to empathise with what the players are going through, and I know it's a messy situation, but it's difficult for us on the outside to comment because we don't really know what's happening. Like everybody, there's a lot of speculation, but there won't be any mercy this week for sure. I mean, this is our opponent and we need to win, so we've got to go over there and do our very best to do that. But certainly we empathise with what the players are going through at the Essendon Footy Club.
Is there a certain amount of time, like this is a massive game for you because it just keeps getting longer and longer, this win-loss? Does this really have to be the week that it happens?
Yeah, it does. I mean, we said it after the game. This has to end, the win-loss. And we'll give everything we've got. And even in our losses this year, it's effort combined with execution. The effort's been there consistently, but the execution hasn't been. If you look at our numbers, our kicking efficiency is one that really stands out. In our losses, it's been below 60%. We just haven't been able to hit targets. And Essendon's pressure is very good. They're the number one side at preventing inside 50s in the competition. They only give up 42 a week. We're going to have to be really on top of our game if we're going to beat this side. We have to do a lot of things right. We can't be 2 or 3% off against Essendon and expect to win on the road. So hopefully we go over and give 120 minutes of consistent Crows footy. We can't just play even 3 quarters against this team. We have to give it 4 quarters.
Brenton, Paul Roos said after the game they were lucky not to lose by 70, 80 points. You look at the key indicators.
Yep.
The Bombers were up by a long way. What did you take out of the game in terms of analysing Essendon?
Yeah, Essendon are a very good side, and I know that it's a bit like me asking our forward scout this week, well, if they're such a great side like us, why are they 6 and 6? And it's a bit like us. They've just been inconsistent in certain games. Even their first quarter against Collingwood at the MCG, I think they kicked 7 goals to 0. But like us, they haven't done it for 4 quarters often enough, and that's an issue that we've addressed and we continue to try and work on is how can we replicate form for 120 minutes with a young team, and we're doing our very best to stay on top of that. We're being very hard on our players and we keep trying to learn. So sometimes it's patience and tolerance, but ultimately with a young side, you have to just keep coaching them and keep trying to drive the 4-quarter message.
You talk about how they're very good at denying your forward, they're going to be trying really hard to deny your forwards, but what did you get out of the way Port Adelaide were able to put so much pressure on them when they were going forward that they kicked, I think it was 10-17, but
yeah.
Melbourne's defensive pressure was outstanding in that match.
Yeah, spot on. And even, the games that I've scouted this week, when Sydney beat Essendon, their pressure on the ball was just incredible. And we know that Sydney do that consistently. That's the message for our team. Bring defensive pressure for 120 minutes, and particularly these sides. I mean, Essendon are the number 1 disposal team in the AFL. They're the number 1 kicking efficiency team. They rarely kick the ball long. It's almost like a soccer tactic, They just keep passing the ball around until opportunities open up to attack. So we've got to try and limit those mark chains. We've got to try and prevent them dictating the tempo of the game. We have to create turnovers early in the chains, and they're a very highly skilled team. They're very efficient with their ball use, but when they're pressured consistently, they, like everybody else, if they're pressured consistently, they'll cough the ball up.
Do you think it's a little bit arrogant for them to rest Chappie?
No, I don't. I know he wants to play against Geelong the following week, obviously, but no, I mean, he's one of those players. He's on the wrong side of 30, and typically in this industry, 22 rounds at this intensity can sometimes take its toll on the body, and you can't take players in who aren't 100%. And we've learnt that lesson over the last 2.5 years. If a player's not hitting the levels consistently for 4 quarters, sometimes just a freshen up is what they need. But no, we haven't spoken about that as a group. They're still going to have 22 very fit, talented players playing against us, and fortunately for us, Paul Chapman's not playing because he's a very good player. But they're still going to bring in a young, hungry player who's determined to keep his spot.
How close was Charlie Cameron to playing this week? Is he right to go, or was it just
Yeah, he's getting closer. I probably said last week I thought he'd miss a week, but sometimes he's only a kid. He's only played 30 games of footy. That's any footy. He hasn't, and not just AFL, he's only played a handful of AFL games, but his young body is still learning to adapt to the intensity of senior football at AFL level. He's been incredible for us, but unfortunately the groin issues he's got is probably going to keep him out for another week. I hope to get him next week. But we'll just keep monitoring that situation. We've actually sent him home for a couple of days. Obviously first-year player. We've just sent him home just to take it easy for a couple of days, and I'm sure he'll come back full of energy and ready to play the following week, hopefully.
And Lynch Henderson, at least a week from Lynch, maybe 2?
Yeah, it's hard to say. We'll see how he goes in the State League on Sunday. Feels like Henderson needs another one, but he'll be, I guess, putting his name up for selection the following week in the showdown. And Lynch, he'll be really determined. He'll come and bash my door down, I'm sure, on Monday saying he wants to play. But we'll have a look at their GPS numbers. We'll see how they go, getting their hands on the footy, if they're clean, all that sort of stuff with their ball use. But yeah, it's nice. We're starting to get some guys back. Disappointed that Brad Crouch got suspended for a week. That he would have been right in the frame this week to play against Essendon. So yeah, potentially we could have 3 guys breathing down the neck of a few guys next week. So yeah, it's a good opportunity for the 22 who play tomorrow night against Essendon to play well and to hold their spot for the next week for the showdown.
Did you have a chat to Brad about that, about discipline?
Yeah, I did have a chat. I mean, it wasn't. I was disappointed that he got rubbed out. I mean, it was a bit of an undisciplined act, but he has to understand that you can't get away with that now with the camera, even at state league level. There's cameras everywhere, and yeah, I was disappointed that he made that decision. Ultimately, it's cost him probably a game this week, but I certainly didn't read the riot act to him. No, I didn't feel that was necessary.
There's been a bit of discussion on Fox this week in particular about the draw coming home. Sides with who they play outside the 8 and inside the 8. Do you think there needs to be a way of addressing it? Because when you look at some teams run, it's a hell of a lot easier than say a Hawthorn or even yourselves. How do we address that? Do we need to address that?
It's a good question. I know, because what they do is they look at the ladder from the previous year and they allocate certain teams. This year we play certain teams twice and other teams once, and that's all depends upon where you finished the previous year. So ultimately, it looks like we had a really tough run early. Our first 3 games were as tough as they get: Geelong on the road, Port, and then Sydney. So we had a really hot start, and but I can guarantee you, from the other side of it, every game is hard that you play now. There's no easy opponent. Every opposition that we play now, we put the same amount of time and energy into, because every team is good. And I know you might sort of give me a wry smile about that, but seriously, every team that you play, whether it's the top team or the team that's 18th on the ladder, they really put up a hell of a fight. So you have to be at your best now in the modern game, and even this year it's so tight. Even with Essendon, us, West Coast, on the outside looking in, we're hoping that a couple of those top 8 sides can make a few mistakes and lose a few games on the way home, and hopefully we win more than we lose on the way home.
Just following on from that, given Essendon's plight and given the results like they've had, especially last weekend,
yep.
Are they vulnerable?
No, we lost to Melbourne this year. Melbourne have really improved. Like I said, it doesn't matter who you play. They can certainly suffocate you, and their defence can force you to make mistakes which you don't typically make. So, but any team you play, if you're even just 2 or 3% off, you're going to be really badly embarrassed and exposed. We've lost a couple of games this year. We felt like we played better than the opposition and lost. And yeah, we've played a couple of games too where we've felt that we haven't played at our best, but we've managed to win. So we need to bring those 4 quarters. This is a huge game. Big one for both footy clubs. Both the Bombers and us need to be at our best.
Last couple of guys. What Crouch relies this week is keeping these young fringe players in form and having continuity in their season sort of becoming a bit of an issue, just because of, one goes in, one goes out, one plays sub, one doesn't.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, the sub is a frustrating one too, because sometimes guys only get 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and then a player plays really well in the state league and he comes in through just good form. Coaching is a challenge because you don't you pick a 22 which you think's going to win. So, yeah, do you give players 3 or 4 opportunities? Is it in for a week and out for a week? Ultimately, at match committee, we pick a 22 that we think's going to beat our opposition. Unfortunately, some players miss out, but you can only fit 22 in. And I'd love to just keep playing Matt Crouch. He's a young, talented player who's got a really bright future with us. But unfortunately, he didn't contribute as much as we would have liked him to last week. Jared Lyons comes in. His form's been really good this season. He's one of those guys who's sort of just been in and out a little bit. But Jared Lyons, if he gives us one of his best games, we think we can win. So you sometimes make decisions based on your opponent and form, and ultimately, though, it's a little bit subjective because you just don't know what you're going to get.
Andy often said during the week that when the boys are under a bit of pressure, they tend to go in their shell. Have you seen that at all?
Yeah, some games, yeah. We sometimes when the physical pressure and the anxiety starts to really get on us, we need to find a way not to go into our shells, but to actually break out of it. You know, keep taking the game on, and I think that's right. Yeah, when we're not playing well, we can't afford to go back into our shells. We need to keep taking the game on and be bold, be brave. That's when we're playing our best footy.
He said it's up to the on-field leaders to drive that. Now, from your opinion, now you've only got one runner. How important is it to have guys that can sort of marshal the troops when you're up against it?
Yeah, spot on. It's a really good debate, the runners one. I know it's normally the sides who have got great on-field leaders who are able to get away without having to use runners to use messages. I mean, the really good teams, the really experienced teams, they can change the game within a quarter. The younger teams, the ones who are still developing, we typically need, the breaks, quarter time, half time and 3/4 time to make adjustments, to reinforce messaging, to adjust structure. But typically the more experienced sides are able to do that on the field with their playing group. So it's a really good debate, and I'm sure it's one we'll have in the off-season as well.